Currently in India, we're seeing a lot of euphoria around consumer internet businesses and e-commerce businesses, particularly VCs trying to put a lot of money, there. I think there's some kind of talk that, basically there's a valuation bubble bath also out being.
It might have ended last Friday.
Yeah.
The Facebook IPO
Yeah.
might actually have triggered the end of the momentum game in social media companies.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if this basically puts a damper on new IPOs.
Mm-hmm.
Social media, and if there's a damper on new IPOs, guess what? You're going to get that ripple effect all the way through, because the only reason VCs are interested in those businesses is because they see that exit strategy, right? I can take this company, if it works out 2 years from now, I can take it public at this huge value, therefore it's all okay. If I take away that exit, then it percolates back. It's amazing how quickly VC money will dry up if the exit strategy goes away. So this is a business which actually teeters on the edge of a pin. If it's a momentum business, you're going to see it very quickly reverse itself. So don't be surprised in 3 months if all of a sudden you see VCs pulling entirely out of this business, saying, wrong business, we're going to go look for something else that we can get out of quickly, because they need to exit fast.
Absolutely.
They don't want to be stuck with these. VCs don't want to convert interesting ideas into full companies. They want to convert interesting ideas into potentially commercial ideas, flip it over to the market and let the market deal with the risk of going from commercial idea to great business and move on to the next idea. So I don't blame them for what they're doing, but I also know how much they're driven by that exit multiple and whether they think they can exit into the public market.
For example, Facebook, if it was priced probably at around $29 or $30, which you recommended, don't you think the pop would have been better, and the market could have got a...
Eventually all momentum games end. So this is not a question of... It would have happened, right? What they did was they kind of pushed it in hyper speed to happen sooner rather than later. That's my blame. So I don't blame them for playing the momentum game. But momentum games also require that you maintain this illusion that it's not a momentum game. Nobody likes to say, I'm in a bubble, I'm buying because everybody else is buying. So you got to give people an excuse, a rational reason. You're doing this for the right reason, so they can delude themselves that they're not part of the crowd. Okay? Because who wants to say, look, I'm part of the crowd, I'm buying because everybody else is buying. So I think what Facebook could have kind of nurtured the momentum game and let it go on a little longer. But if it's not Facebook, it would have been something else down the road. It might have been a disappointment in Facebook 6 months from now because advertising was not coming in. So I think this would have happened eventually. I think what made it unfortunate for Facebook is it happened in hyper speed 1 hour after the IPO.
Yeah.
So basically now people have a villain. And it's not just the media. There are other social media companies that are really, really mad about what Facebook did, because you killed the golden goose. They said if you just let it go for another 6 months, we could have gone public. Right? And now, of course, that rug's been pulled out from under them, and they're convinced it's Morgan Stanley and Facebook's fault for speeding up the end of the bubble.
So the bubble is burst?
I wouldn't be surprised because momentum is this illusion, you got to maintain it. So it's like the emperor's new clothes. Remember the fairy tale where as long as the kid didn't say, look, the emperor is wearing no clothes, until then all the people were convinced that because everybody else was telling them that he was wearing clothes, but once you burst that illusion, it's very difficult to put it back again. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if we trace back the end of the social media bubble to about 12:15 on Friday, New York time, when the stock started going from 43 to 42, 41 to 30 and 40, because it's you could see the crowd shifting. It was almost like they were running in one direction, and somebody stopped and said, "Why are we running in this direction? Let's run in the other direction." And you could see the entire, the order flow shift while you were watching it, and you could see Morgan Stanley trying. So they were actually trying to stop the crowd, and they discovered very quickly that there were so many people in the crowd that they didn't have the capacity to do it. They tried for Friday. In fact, the reason the stock stayed at 38 or slightly above was entirely because of the support. Monday they gave up. They said, no way can we stop this. This is a flood coming at us. And the problem is now when the momentum goes in the other direction, it actually overshoots.
Facebook can learn some lessons from Google in terms of,
Oh, I think so. Google, I think, is an example of a company that took a great business idea and built a great business. And because and they realize what you need. You need operating people on the ground. You need good marketing people. So at Google, if you want to advertise, you call the company. It's a professional organization. What I've heard about Facebook is that it's a very arrogant. It already thinks it's a giant company, and its operating capacity is kind of sketchy. You call, you don't get called back. You want to do advertising, they act like they're doing you a favor. Would Google have allowed a prime client to announce a day before the offering that he or she was leaving because your business model was not working? That to me suggests, if I were Facebook, I would have moved Earth and, I would have moved everything to make sure that GM did not do that in the week before. It was very revealing to me that they let GM go. They might have tried everything, but if I were a company, I'd have figured out some way to keep them on board. And I think can they learn? Yes, but I think the way they're structured, I'm not sure that there's that process built in. It's Mark Zuckerberg's company. And basically that's it. And he might be he's a very smart guy, but I'm not sure he's a smart business person. So I think that's going to be that Facebook will get lucky, it'll get unlucky. It's what it does with what fate delivers that will determine whether it's going to become a great company. And my worry is if Zuckerberg is not up to it, there's not much I can do as an investor.
Yeah.
What were the early signs of momentum investing that one could see,
I think one of the early signs.
Early signals.
There are lots of signals. One is this macro story that will keep getting told over and over again. The macro story might be, social media is going to be, but it'll be nothing to do with the company. Lots of users will mean lots of money. How will you make lots of money? We don't know. But so you constantly hear the macro story. Lots of users become lots of money. We don't know how that will happen, but trust us. There'll be valuation metrics you've never seen before. Value per user, value per member, value per subscriber, value per, remember the .com, or value per eyeball. So you'll have metrics you've never seen because you've got to justify these prices, and you can't justify them using price earnings ratios or conventional multiples because nothing fits. You'll see people essentially almost taking any piece of news and making it good news. So you'd see a company report earnings, you'd think that's bad news, but somehow and if you reverse it, when momentum shifts, it's amazing how everything becomes bad news. Like if you look at the last week, Zuckerberg looked cute when he got married on Friday. There's a cute story. Today, of course, is how dare he get married the day after the IPO and not pay attention to the company. It's amazing how people can look at the same news item and the rose-colored glasses are replaced with these dark glasses where everything looks bad and everything looks good. So that's why I said the Friday shift might be revealing, because all of a sudden everything that social media companies do is a bad thing.
Okay.
That those same things a week ago would have been wonderful things, right? So I think that when you see bubbles building, those are the ingredients that go in. And of course you get an ecosystem of bubbles. People make money off the bubbles, consultants, experts, investment banks, VCs. Nobody wants the bubble to be burst. And that's why I think there's so much anger at Facebook, because the ecosystem is suffering today.
Yeah.
So you're a social media consultant. Until last week you had business lined up. Now people are saying, hey, who's going to be hiring you? So this is I think and it happens. This happens in every bubble. There's an ecosystem that builds up that when the bubble bursts, kind of implodes on itself. And it's not pretty because they turn on each other. It becomes this incredibly contentious competitive game. But you're starting to see that already, and it's been only 4 days. I'm scared to even think if I were a social media company what next week will bring.
So after .com and then social media, what is the next sector? Showing you early signs of bubble.
All we know is it'll look nothing like the last bubble. So basically, when people prepare, they say never again. Mm-hmm. They're ready. Because they were great at fighting the last war. So when we say never again, we're always learning the wrong lessons, because the lessons we learn are very specific lessons from that particular crisis. The general lessons, though, I think we'll never learn because it's built into us. It's evolutionary. It's that those seeds for the next bubble were planted when human beings were put on the earth. So, I mean, this is behavioral, it's built into us to be overly optimistic. It's built into us to move in crowds. You can't fight it. So for those people who say, how do I stop the next bubble? My response is, that's a wrong question. So how do I live through the next bubble could be a next question. But don't ask me how do I, because you can't stop it. It's the nature of human behavior that you get over optimistic, that you get disappointed, you get over pessimistic, and you repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse. And this is a cycle, and it's a cycle that's been around as long as human beings have been around. It predates markets. That you don't need markets to get the cycle going.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's why I look at bubbles and people think of these as dark, gloomy places, but it's actually fun to be in a bubble, right? I mean, you tend to forget it after the bubble bursts, but it's an exciting place to be. You see companies coming out of nowhere, entrepreneurs having ideas, things bubbling up to the surface. Many might be terrible ideas, but that's you need to throw all the ideas onto the good idea. If you say only good ideas make it through, then nothing will make it through, right?
Yeah. You
got to get that market for ideas out. That's what bubbles do, is everything bubbles up to the surface. Good ideas, bad ideas, they kind of percolate there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bubble bursts and the bad ideas slip away and the good ideas remain. So this is a healthy part of the process. So what you're going to see is a kind of pruning of the social media space, where some of this fluff that comes up in every bubble is going to kind of fall off.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, that might be a healthy thing.
And who will be the winners? What sort of companies?
Companies which are I can't name company, but I'll tell you what the characteristics will be. Companies which have clean business models, that have thought through not just, hey, I want a lot of users, but how to convert the users into products. I'll give you an example. LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm far more likely to be an investor in LinkedIn than I'm in Facebook, because whether you like it or not, LinkedIn is a great business model. It's something that would have been inconceivable until they came along. This is why we paid $200,000 to go to university in the US, is to create a network. And guess what? For $200 with a premium membership on LinkedIn, I can create a more powerful network. It's a model that's clean. It's a membership model. I mean, you look at it and say, I can see how they make money. Now the question of whether they can scale this up. So scaling questions remain, but the business model is clean. Groupon has a clean business model as well. The only problem is its barriers to entry is zero. Now, on any given morning when I wake up, I see 10 different deal companies offering me the deal of the day, right? Groupon. LinkedIn, on the other hand, has strong network advantages. So if you want a network that works, it's like eBay, right? If you want to sell something, you're going to go where the buyers are. If you want to network, you're going to go where everybody networks. So LinkedIn is a clean business model. It has a competitive barrier to entry that's going to get strong, but the network effects are going to get stronger as it gets bigger. So that's a company I like. At the right price, I'd buy the company. And you know what? That's the good thing about momentum shifts, is you can be a value investor and have LinkedIn in your portfolio at the right price. And it's going to come to the right price, because when momentum shifts, you overshoot. Not just for Facebook, but for all social media companies. So the companies that are going to succeed are companies that can convert ideas into models and have thought through that process. The companies that are going to fail are companies that say, look, I'll just collect users, and somehow they're going to convert. It's a field of dreams approach. If we get them, it will come. What's business will come. We haven't thought about how, but it will come. It never comes. You can build a better mousetrap, but mousetraps have to be commercial. You have to be able to sell those mousetraps.
I think in India we are seeing a lot of rip-off from like the US companies, similar kind of stuff. Me Too companies, yeah. So the way the market is evolving and teaching us these things, the social media burst. Maybe you could say that there are more surprises to be offered.
I think it's also a reminder that Econ 101 is not suspended just because you have a social media company. There's demand and supply. There's competition. There's a business. Underlying this is all of this. And remember, social media is not a business. It's a way of delivering business. Groupon is a social media company that does what the old coupon guy used to do. I went around putting coupons under the door, right? So this is kind of a scaled up version of the coupon guy. So the restaurant would pay $8 for coupon guy, so put it into every apartment door for and the guy would go around. This is basically the email version of that, right? So I think that if you step back and look at the underlying business, there's an underlying business. There's advertising. There's only so many advertising dollars. It's not like companies can afford to triple their advertising budgets, so the money has to come from somewhere. And that's essentially the problem you have, is if these social media companies are going to be as successful as you claim they are, then Google should be going to zero, right? And the New York Times should be worth nothing. You cannot have this system where each of these companies is supposedly all, I mean, they're all going to make money off advertising, but if you add up what you're projecting as advertising for these companies, what you're getting is an advertising budget that's 3 times larger than all of the advertising budgets put together right now. So where are you going to see? So I think that's another feature of bubbles, is people talk macro, they can't think micro. They can talk about what the big picture is, but they can't talk about how all of these pieces fit into that big picture. And that, I think, is, it's human nature. And you know what, I think that's okay. I mean, I think this is going to sound weird. I think bubbles are healthy. They're healthy because that's how human beings make the leap. And I tell people, do you want a world run by actuaries? Right? If you had a world run by actuaries, we'd still be in caves. Because the actuaries probably saying, that fire thing, I don't know, it looks the probabilities will not work out, let's not bring it up. So we'll be sitting in caves with, with no light and no heat.
No innovation.
Right, because bubbles essentially symbolize that human capacity to dream the impossible dream. Right? So to me, bubbles are part of creative destruction, construction. Because if you think about the .com bubble, was that such a terrible thing? It changed the way we live, right? I make my travel reservations on. So if you look at the .com bubble, it predicted that we'd all be online doing everything, and it was right. So it got the macro story right. What it got wrong was that all of those .com companies would somehow be able to make money off the bubble. So when you see these bubbles, essentially the macro story is a good story. So the fact, social media changes the way we interact and live. It's going to be a fact of life. What the market's getting wrong is all these social media companies can't coexist in that future that they see. Some are going to succeed, some are going to fail, and the winner might not even be a company you see out there right now.
Okay.
Right? Right now the betting is it's got to be Facebook and Twitter. But what do we know about this business? We don't even know what advertising works in social media space yet, right? We act like this is just an extension of the newspaper business, that you have a social media page and users, all you have to do is put banner ads. But that might not be the way. Maybe the advertising will take the form of word of mouth passed around by Twitter, where the company actually is not there, but people using the product passed around saying, I love this product. Maybe that's the kind of advertising that we're moving towards, but we don't know. Which effectively means we can't predict safely. We can predict that this collectively is going to be a big business, but we have no idea who the winners are going to be.
Okay.
Might be a company you haven't even seen yet.
In terms of, the Indian Sensex, how do you think, is it like oversold? I mean, what is your view on that? From a long-term perspective, what do you think?
I mean, the long-term perspective is clearly India and China is where the growth is going to be. Whether it's profitable growth or not is a different question, right? You can grow and it might be very difficult to make money off that growth because of the regulatory process, because of competition, whatever it is. So I think there's a big difference between the economy growing and companies within that economy being able to make money off the growth. And to me, that is really a very important question that has not been answered with Indian companies, and has definitely not been answered with Chinese companies, because Chinese companies, more than Indian companies, it's really a controlled market, right? Because you're a company in China, the only way you're a successful company is if the right people in Beijing or Shanghai say you can be successful. So no matter what they say about this being a free market in China, it's not free. It's really and I think right now, if a company makes money in China, it's allowed to make money. It's given this protected market. The competition is restricted. So I'm not sure these companies can actually survive in a marketplace where they truly have to compete against other companies. And Indian companies, at least, I can point to Indian companies that have gone out there and competed with US companies or European companies head to head and walked away as winners. There are more world-class Indian companies than there are world-class Chinese companies. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about, great Chinese companies, I can't think of too many. They're the infrastructure companies, but I know why they make money. It's because they're given the contract for how can you lose money? It's cost plus. The government keeps the competition out. It fixes the prices. It fixes the wages. It controls your workforce for you. This is a game that a dummy could win, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to separate the health of the economy from the value of companies in the economy, because assuming that if an economy grows fast, companies in that economy will automatically become more valuable.
It's a misconception.
It's a misconception. It's a dangerous one.